my question before we went to break, quite simply, is what did you see in Coach Mark D'Antonio that led you to believe he'd be the one to turn the program around?
Well, he was here. Nick Saban and I came at the same time in '95, and Mark D'Antonio came as his assistant coach and did a phenomenal job. We became friends. Our wives are friends, families. We got daughters the same age, all that. Then when he went on to Ohio State after Nick left, I watched him win a national championship there as a defensive coordinator. Then I watched him go to Cincinnati and the job he did, and I got to be one of 3 or 4 people that got to interview Mark. My AD was phenomenal, Mark Hollis, our president, Luana K. Simon. Everybody did their job, and I just played a small part.
A small part.
I'm amazed. I got to admit, I've said this repeatedly. In terms of college basketball, you're my favorite coach in the nation. I truly mean that. I love the way that you handle your business. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about this Michigan State football team and how you feel they're going to handle their business, particularly when we're talking about the inception of the new playoff system in college football. What are your thoughts about this football team and what you've seen from it thus far?
Well, I watch you guys a lot, and I think you all kind of agree that no matter what sport you're in, defense usually wins championships. I mean, it doesn't change professional, college, high school. From hockey to baseball, it never changes, and right now, I think we've got still one of the best defensive teams in America. Last year, we were off the charts, but we're not far from it, and I think that gives us, a real chance to win. In saying that, I think Ohio State is a very good team, but what we've added to our repertoire and our arsenal is our offense. We're a much better offensive team than we were a year ago and ranked in the top in a lot of categories. So when you can do it on both sides of the ball and you're playing at home, got a good chance.
Coach, speaking of football, you grew up, of course, with Steve Mariucci, a very good football coach in his own right. As I've watched you progress in your basketball career, I've often wondered how good or great a football coach you could have been if you had chosen to go down that path. Because annually, your teams play as physical a basketball as I see around the country. High finesse, but high physicality. How important to you in teaching your players is physicality?
Well, it's very important. We have a saying in our locker room, players play, but toughest players win. And again, I think that's in all sports. I think it's in your profession. I think you got to be a little competitive, as you told me a little while ago. And I really believe in that. But, my second year at Northern Michigan as an assistant, Mariucci left for Cal State Fullerton. And I almost did go there. I knew the head coach, and there was a position open there in the defensive backs, and I had played football. And
Interesting.
I love football, and that's why it's so great to be here. We can talk about football all day. That's cool with me.
I'm interested in knowing. I want you to define for the audience out here and watching, of course, America, your definition of toughness. Because a lot of people talk about toughness, whether it be basketball or football, but I'm not sure people understand the definition of toughness when it comes from a coach. Explain to us what that is in your eyes.
Boy, that's a good question, but to me, it's something that you do mentally and physically. It's not just smash mouth. It's not just knock somebody on their tail. It's can you do it mentally as well as physically? And I think there's a lot of guys that are physically tough, mentally weak. There's some mentally tough, physically weak. Not as many of those, but toughness is that you're not afraid of anything or anybody, and that's why we play the schedule we play. We play anybody, any place, anytime, because I think we take our knocks. I think of all the Final Fours, we've got the most losses coming in as anybody because we'll go on the road and play anybody, anywhere, anytime. And I think we've gained that mentality. And so now when it gets to be March, whether it's Magic Johnson and Steve Smith everybody calls back and kind of reminds us it's March, and that's when the toughness really comes through.
So, Coach, from a distance, we need your insight on what's going on right now, early in the year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, year after year here on the college level. Well, you go through this every year. You bring in talented newcomers, and you have to blend them with seasoned veterans. The flip is happening, obviously, right now in Cleveland, and a supremely gifted veteran is trying to figure it out with a bunch of kids who don't yet know how it all works. How do you see this playing out? How long will it take?
Well, I watched that, and I recruited that veteran at one time when he was a freshman or sophomore in high school. We had just won the national championship. His high school coach was from the state of Michigan, so we were one of a decent amount of schools, but we were at least in the mix. And I decided that summer that he's not going to college. You know, that was his sophomore year. But I'm really proud of what LeBron's done. You know, I think he was one of those young, I won't say immature, but if you looked at him his last couple of years with the Cleveland Cavs and you thought of him taking pictures during warm-up and all the things, and then you watched him with the Miami Heat and there's like a laser focus that he just changed, you know, because he matured and grew up and figured out what you got to do. He's got a little bit of work cut out because there's a lot of young rookies there or second-year guys that I don't think have figured out that, you know, there's a difference between playing well and winning. And there's a difference in winning games and winning championships. And, boy, to do that, I think LeBron figured it out when he went. I loved his I'm not a big tweet and text guy, but I loved on your shows seeing what he had to say about, you know, Aaron Rodgers. You know, relax. You know, relax. I mean, I think you're a little bit better at it, but the three of us aren't very good at it either. I watched you guys in action, and you've seen me once or twice, so maybe I should take his advice too. But I am relaxed about it. Dan Gilbert's a Michigan State grad and a good guy, and I think it's been great for Cleveland. It's been great for the small markets, you know, and if he can pull this off, which I think he will, what an incredible statement to a lot of kids that you don't just have to be certain places for all these. You got to make the best of where you are, and he's trying now to bring other people along with him, like a Magic did, like a Michael did, and I think that'll really be his legacy.